You are listening to the Nature's Premier Podcast, episode 29. Here on the Nature's Premier Podcast, we talk about everything from bees to babies and sustainable living. Join us while we talk about natural parenting and different ways to live a more sustainable lifestyle for ourselves and our future generations to come. Now let's begin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Nature's Premier Podcast. I am your host, Brooke Nichols, founder of New York's premier cloth diaper service, Nature's Premier, and as always, I am super grateful to be here with you all today. Today's episode is sponsored by Nature's Premier Diaper Service, New York's cloth and compostable diaper service, providing families throughout Long Island and New York City with a healthier way to diaper their babies. Check them out at www.naturespremier.com. Now on to the show. For those of you who have been listening to our show since the beginning, you know that we stand by companies who are making a difference and certainly having an impact on their communities and the environment around them. We love to highlight businesses that stand for something, and especially in a world like today where a lot of small businesses that are trying to do mighty things get drowned out by larger corporations that oftentimes don't have the best interest of the environment and the people, in mind. It's something that's really important to us, is kind of giving like a podium for these businesses, for these people, for these activists to share their experiences, talk about what they're doing for the communities, talk about their brand, talk about their business, and really get out there to more people. Today's guest is no different. I am actually a huge fan, as you could tell in this interview, of this company. As for those of you who know or don't know, I have 3 children, and my youngest daughter actually is a very, very big fan of this company. So as a mother as well, I really stand by what they're doing. I stand by the strides they are making and the difference that they are making in their community. It's really big. And not only just offering a great product, when a company offers a great product and then they also go above and beyond charity-wise and they're doing community service, they're doing things that are helping those who can't even directly buy their product, I think that just speaks volumes. I think that is so huge. And those are the companies that we want to highlight. So if you are someone that is trying to make a difference in your industry and your community, if there's something different that you're doing, if you just need a little bit of a pedestal, somebody to speak with you, to give you a little bit of a voice, please do feel free to reach out to us. We really care about those businesses, about those activists, about those people. It's really important, and it really does take a village. So definitely reach out to us if you're someone that is environmentally conscious, if you are in the baby field, even if you're not in the children's field, and you're in like the sustainability, zero waste movement, definitely give us a call or even shoot us an email at podcast@naturespremier.com. And we would love to speak with you. We would love to learn more about you. And that's exactly what happened with this business today. We are so excited to have them on. And because I really love what they are doing, I'm actually going to share a little bit of their story in their introduction. So definitely stand by for this interview. It is a good one, and you will learn more about this company and maybe even patron them in the future for your children. Today's guest is Susan Correa. She has successfully built and led multi-million-dollar operations in India, Europe, Canada, and in the United States. And yet, despite these rich and incredibly fulfilling years, something was missing. Inspired by the purpose-driven lives of family and friends, Susan felt called to do more than simply achieve. In an attempt to weave together her passion for fashion with a journey of impact, she created the program Empower, an initiative that provides hot, nutritious meals to children in need. To launch Empower, Susan scheduled a trip to the Hope Foundation School in Bangalore, India. For the journey, she packed 2 books, Seth Godin's Linchpin and Jim Collins' From Good to Great, which is actually one of my favorite books. Soon, everything began to connect. The kids at the school changed her heart. The books changed her course. Collins' ideas on how to be the best in the world clicked with Godin's ideas on how to be the best for the world. She saw how fashion industry had the incredible power to generate a better world by embracing its moral responsibility to self-reform. This journey changed her forever. Susan found her why and consequently her way forward. When Susan returned back to the U.S., it was with a mission to reimagine how the business of fashion could be harnessed to be used as a force for good. After several months of seeking out reformative processes, It was a conversation with Mike Volignane, Vice Dean of Harvard's T.H. Chan Public Health Division, that turned out to be the crucial game-changing encounter. It was in the conversation that Susan decided to exit her executive position in the two multi-million-dollar businesses she was leading to build Art and Eden. Art and Eden is a sustainable line of children's clothing born from a dream to build a business that strived to be the best it could be in the world by being the best for the world. It was created by slowing down the fast fashion momentum and taking the time to build thoughtful, intentional business processes that are better for the planet. Susan chose her factories carefully and put great consideration into all the choices along the supply chain. She had dreamt of a better way forward, a world where profit had a greater purpose and a shared value. She wanted improved livelihoods for farmers, dyers, and tailors. Susan wanted a world of collaboration and connection where beautiful people worked alongside each other to create a better world for all. A world where profit for some did not have to come at the cost of others. Art and Eden was that dream that became a reality on January 25th, 2017. So this business is less than a year old, and it is making huge strides in the fashion movement and definitely impacting our communities. Susan, welcome to the show.
My delight completely, Brooke. Thanks for having me over.
Yeah, and we're really excited about your brand. So can you tell us a little bit about Art and Eden? First off, where did that name come from? It's a very interesting name.
Yeah, it sure is. So I was actually in a search for a greater purpose for business per se, and in a journey that took me to India to launch a program called Empower, where for every garment I sold in one of the businesses that I was running, I was funding a hot, nutritious meal for children in a school there. And for that journey, I had packed two books. One was Seth Godin's Linchpin, and the other was Jim Collins' From Good to Great. And it was really powerful because one of the central ideas of Seth Godin's book was this journey of an artist, where he redefined art as really a personal act of courage, something one human being does to create change in another human being. He repurposed the definition as something that's creative, that's passionate, that's personal, and an artist who takes on art is one that exudes bravery and insight and creativity. And that definition, that repurposed definition of art really stuck with me. And that was where the Art and Eden story starts. And Eden, in the beginning, we had the Garden of Eden, the beautiful paradise. We had love, we had slowness, we had sunlight, we had community, we had caring, we had all these beautiful reasons to be and the delight to just discover and to seek out the unknown. And I realized that as we started growing and changing, we changed that. Inspiration was overrun by standardization. Our creativity took sidestep for efficiency. And we realized that our choices do matter. We can't go back to Eden, so our attempt is to recreate it. And art is where our story begins, and Eden is our intended destination. So that's the story of Art and Eden.
Love it. That is amazing. And it's funny that you mentioned that book, Good to Great, because it's probably one of the best books I've ever read, to be honest with you. It's one of my favorites. And I always go back to that book time and time again. So that's really fascinating. And yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know too much about it. I'm really excited about this interview because it just seems like there was a deeper meaning, and just the company itself just seems like, it's very genuine, and you guys are doing something different that a lot of companies aren't. So can you talk to our listeners today a little bit about what your company does, the kind of clothing it provides, and why it's different than other companies out there?
Yeah, so I've had the, very unique disposition of having witnessed the business of fashion from 360 degrees. I was running two multi-million-dollar businesses before I started Art and Eden. And it was this journey to find a bigger meaning and a better way forward for business that started this whole journey forward in seeking out how does one reimagine the business of fashion. And that led to this whole experiment of just, basically slowing down the business of fashion in this race to the finish line and bringing the latest trends, quickest and cheapest to market. one often sidesteps all the costs of our choices. And we realize that if change has to start in the industry, it has to start from us. It has to start from within. It goes way beyond numbers and certifications. It really, we started the journey by changing ourselves and realized that this is a slow journey. It's unlike the business of fashion, which is on always so fast. Um, but it allowed us the time to build a better product. Everything that we do with our choices, we recognize that it matters. So all of our garments are deeply considered and thoughtfully made, from using sustainable fabrics to working with factories that treat their people right, to really trying to configure how the power of business can be used as a force for good. We have a local impact program where our team mentors a group of kids in an inner city school. We have a Clothes for Cure program where we have committed to 1 million multivitamins and 7,000 doses of albendazole to support children in need. So really build a business that is holistic, that is beautiful, that attempts change from within.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's very interesting that you say that, because I think it does start with a company that has a vision that wants to do better. And I think it does take, yeah, it does take visionaries pretty much, because, you have to shake up the standard role, you know what I mean? And like I said, your clothing, I mean, they're beautiful and it almost tells a story. And I think it's really interesting that there is a company, especially a children's company, that is really taking the reins and trying to provide a better product. Because if more businesses did what you guys are doing, then really would change the dynamic of the industry, at least in my opinion. Now, for Art and Eden, can you talk a little bit about your sustainability footprint and how it differs from other clothing brands?
Sure. So the journey really started by studying out the impact of fashion, and it was very interesting for me because that was the moment where knowledge became understanding, where numbers took a greater meaning. And when I studied the impact of cotton, it really first weighted very heavy on my shoulders because it was what I was doing for most of my journey in fashion. And then changing that to really embrace sustainable choices. So everything that we do with Art and Eden is the use of sustainable materials. And with our use of organic fabric, basically, it's natural, it's chemical free. It does not use insecticides and pesticides in the farming of cotton. Our dyeing processes are all with low toxicity dyes. Our packaging is biodegradable. It uses recycled boxes and recycled paper. So every touch point through the product, we've embraced sustainability and working very close with certifiers, with mills and dyers and trim suppliers to make sure that our impact is as low as possible on the environment.
That's amazing. And what a lot of people don't realize is when they throw clothing out, these dyes, it takes a long time for these dyes to actually get out of your clothing. Even if you wash it, often, and, even like the fire retardants in children's pajamas, like everything, we're being bombarded by chemicals. So in my personal opinion, I think it's very important to invest in high quality organic clothing that is sustainable, that does have a small, amount of chemicals or no chemicals at all, natural dyes. It's just really important, and especially in today's day and age. I mean, we are exposed to so many different types of chemicals. And, we're having an issue with our landfills. They're completely inundated. And, we consume, and we don't think about the impact that it has on the environment. So I think it's really important, the mission that you guys are, putting forth and really changing that dynamic. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what kind of clothing that you guys carry? Certain sizes, like is it seasonal? Like what type of clothes does Art and Eden carry?
So our age group, we basically carry clothing for newborns up to age 10. It is a collaboration of artists from around the world. So we have amazing artists from Brooklyn to Belgium working on these masterpieces, and which we convert into beautiful prints. So it's a girls and a boys line, and basically for the first 10 years of life, we cover that.
That's great. And where are you guys located? Like, is it kind of like you go to shops? Is it online? Like, what's the business dynamic?
So we are about 10 months in business. January 25th, 2017 was when we launched the line. We are in 10 months in 300 stores across the United States. At takeoff, we were anchored with Nordstrom's in the States and with El Palacio de Hierro in Mexico. It's really amazing. We're now a fully funded brand, and we have pathways to build the brand in India, and China, and in Europe. Uh, Pretty amazing to just watch this dream become a reality, being accepted, being having great sell-throughs. It's really a beautiful dream unfolding.
And especially since there is such a good story behind it. And, like I said earlier, consumers want, more. They want, more organic clothing. They want to help to reduce the impact on the environment. I mean, there is a growing trend of that. And I think it is an industry standard as of right now that, for many brands, they don't really care about the afterlife of their product. I think they're looking for, like you said, it's a very fast paced, environment, and they're looking to, pump out more different types of styles. They're not really looking for the quality. They're not really, caring about the chemicals or the chemical exposure that it's having on our children. I mean, just the fact that there's, all different chemicals inside of these clothing and they're not tested. It's crazy. So I think it's really important that there is a business like yours that is providing this type of service and this type of product to families, especially children. Now, where do you see Art and Eden in the next 10 years? And, where do you see the industry of fashion, especially for children, going? Do you see it going in like a more eco direction, or do you see it kind of regressing?
I think there is so much focus on a healthy lifestyle. We put so much of an emphasis on how we consume things, how we consume food, while we pay so much of attention to organic food and what we put into our body. I think it's incredibly important to be mindful of what we put on our body. Uh, the skin is, nature blessed us with three layers to our skin for a reason. And we get to put the fourth layer on to our children. I think it's really important to stop and think what we are clothing them with. What does that clothing stand for? How was it made? Because in the race to get the latest trend, cheapest to the market, you often miss the true costs of making the product. And really to slow down and think how really is this, the Rana Plaza Bangladesh factory that collapsed in 2013 with 1,000 people losing their life is testimony of the true cost of cheap fashion. So really to be mindful of what we're putting on our children's body, what cost they are made at, how does it make a difference? So when we built Art and Eden, we recognized that the market share was taken by four major players. The barriers of entry were very high because 68% of the market was run by four players. And to me, that was the entry point. That was their strength was actually their what visually was their strength was actually my entry point because I realized that they were so big in this pursuit of fast fashion and cheap fashion that I could build something of value. I could build something that perhaps was not the cheapest, but was important.
Yes, and I like that you brought up, the fact that we do worry so much about, the products that go in our body, our hair care, and we never think about our clothing. I mean, very few people actually think about that. And our skin is the largest organ on our body, and it's also absorbs the most. That's why it's so important that what we put in it and what we put on it, is really taken into consideration. And, I really appreciate the fact that you brought up the factory life because that's another issue that many people don't talk about. Again, you can talk about the health aspect, but what about the health aspect of the workers that are making these products? I think it's very important to support ethical businesses. And that's why we're really happy to have you on today because a lot of companies, they will make a cheap product. And, if you trace it back to their labor camps, I mean, these people are not treated correct. They're not treated right. They're not treated appropriately. They're working, very long hours for very small wages. And a lot of them are, not a lot of them are children, but there's definitely a certain percentage of child labor. And that's just a real thing that we're dealing with in our society. And that's why I do think it's so important that we promote, even if it's at a premium, because sometimes you have to pay more. And especially if you're in that situation where you can afford it, I think it's really important to, to patron these type of businesses because then, more businesses will open like that, and then the brand's able to expand and able to do different things, and it's not at the cost of the environment, it's not at the cost of the health of the children, and it's definitely not at the cost of the workers. So I think it's really, really important that you brought that topic up, because it is something that we don't ever talk about as a society. And we know that a lot of these clothing brands, I mean, if you look at like giant chains like Walmart, not to say too much about Walmart because there's a lot that can be said about it, but they have been persecuted for years for violating all different types of labor rights and in other countries. So I think it's really important, and thank you for bringing that topic up. Now, as far as the industry as a whole, do you see it being more diverse, like more communities being built around sustainable clothing? Like, what are your thoughts on that as far as the industry is concerned?
I think it's a definite point of much value and much interest as uh, people journey forward. As you look at the way the retail industry is crumbling all around us, and people are trying to re-envision and reimagine the way forward. I think a lot of the designers, especially at the top end, are rethinking their commitment to sustainability, to impact, and reimagining a new way forward. And sustainability is front and center of that search and finding a better way for business. We cannot keep going on as if our choices don't matter and we can just about turn our eyes and rationalize the problem away as somebody else's to resolve. It's to each and every one of us in the business of fashion to make that difference.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that too, because it's easier to put your head in the sand and not worry about these things, but it affects every single one of us, whether you live in New York City or you live across the country. I mean, across the world rather, to Adelaide, Australia. I mean, it affects every single person. And it's very important. And I think that's really interesting that you say that. Again, I do see more of a drive for people supporting, more organic clothing. And again, there is a premium to that, but when they look at all the things that they're getting and what they're not getting as far as the chemicals are concerned, it's just worth it, And it's the same thing with diapers. People want to buy like these giant things of diapers that have all these chemicals in it, but there's a better way, and there's always a better way. And not everyone can afford it, but for those who can, I think it's super important to, purchase premium. Maybe order less clothes, but order more high quality clothes. Like that's what we do in my family, and we make it work. So, especially finding companies like Art Needed, I mean, it just makes me feel better that I'm doing something, like I'm kind of giving back. Now, you said earlier you work with different types of programs. You had some kind of clothing drive. Can you talk with us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, Art and Eden was born from a desire to build a business that made a difference, to use the power of business and harness its incredible ability to generate profits for greater good in both our local and our global communities. We have a Clothes for Cure program. We've partnered with Hope Worldwide, and we've committed 1 million multivitamins and 7,000 doses of albendazole for children all across Central America. So I had made this call to Hope Worldwide in June of 2016, about 7 months before the business started. And I called up in order to find out how we could partner with them once the business got live. And I was greeted with a very heavy hearts on the other side. And they told me that they were just about to pull the curtain on a medication program that they were running in Central America. And I asked them why. Why are you stopping the program? And they said, we don't have the funding in place. And I was like, I don't have my funding in place either. I really wanted to start this in 7 months, but their need was so immediate. I decided to pay it forward. I said, I've really built this business to make a difference. I'm going to go out in a leap of faith. I'm going to pay it forward. I'm committing to this multivitamins and all the albendazole you need. Let the program roll. And I think I look back today, the program is launched in El Salvador, in Honduras, in Tijuana, in Nicaragua, and Guatemala. And I look back and I think that was perhaps the best business decision I made for Art and Eden, because it was in that paying forward that we've just watched miracle after miracle unfold in our journey. So it's been amazing. That's our global impact program. And our local program is with the Camden Street School in Newark, in New Jersey. It's 25 minutes away from New York, and some of these kids have not even been to New York. So our team at Art in Eden mentors the kids at Camden Street School, and it's just truly the highlight of our month. Sometimes we go in to teach them, other times we learn from them, but we always grow together, and it's just amazing.
I absolutely love that. That is amazing. Wow, that's really special, and we try to do things like that here with Nature's Premiere because we're also a diaper service. But we're always, it's so interesting too because when you have a mission and you do have, a drive to make a difference in your business, collabing with different smaller organizations. I mean, you really are paying it forward. You really are, kind of branching out, and you really are helping, and they're helping you, and it's a beautiful thing. And that, what was the medication program called? The prescription medication program?
It's albendazole and multivitamins.
Okay, great. That's awesome. And is there any way that we can donate to that, or is that something that your team you are just collab with them?
I'm working on setting up a 501c3 company, and I will keep you posted on that very soon because the needs are so plentiful, and we could do with as much help as possible.
Absolutely. That is absolutely amazing. And there you guys go. I had no idea that they even had that. And thank you so much for coming on because now I can definitely tell people why they should support you, even more reasons. I'm a very big fan of what you guys are doing, and I think it's really important. And I will tell all of our listeners and definitely let people know, more about your business. And when you have that information, please do send it to me, and I will definitely share it with our audience. But thank you so much for coming on today. Now, is there any last words that you want to give our listeners about you, about your brand, and about why it's important to purchase sustainable clothing?
I think the most important thing I'd like to say is that, a better world does not start by chance. It starts by choice. And it's in changing ourselves that we're able to change the world. For too long, I was in the business of fashion, and really my attention was solely on profit. And everything else seemed like a distraction. It was when my attention changed to making a difference that change began to unfold so naturally and organically. So I really would like to push for people to think about how our choices matter and really come together as a community to make a difference in the world that we're leaving for tomorrow's children.
Absolutely. I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, where can our listeners find out more information about your business? What are your social media handles?
Everything is on our URL, artineden.com, social handles, and the whole business story can be found online.
And you're also on Instagram. Are you guys on Twitter as well?
Not on Twitter yet, but yes, on Instagram.
Instagram at Art and Eden. You guys post beautiful pictures too, so we definitely recommend checking them out. Well, Susan, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it, and we are big fans of your business, and we look forward to seeing all the great that you'll be doing in the future.
Thank you so much for having me, Brooke. The pleasure was completely mine.
Absolutely. Take care, Susan. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That wraps up our interview with Susan Correa, founder of Art and Eden clothing line. You can check them out on Instagram and on Facebook at Art and Eden, and also on their website, artandeden.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Susan. It was an absolute pleasure. Well, you guys, that wraps up another episode of the Nature's Premiere podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode this week. We really appreciate your listenership, and we really definitely appreciate you guys for submitting, your questions, your feedback. It's really helpful for us to see what episodes work well for you guys in the future and what content you are looking for. So if you haven't already, please make sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast. It really does help get our podcast in front of more like-minded individuals who can certainly use this information and may really enjoy our content. Also, if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, or would like to collaborate on a future episode of the podcast, please do email us at podcast@naturespremiere.com. We absolutely love hearing from our listeners. Thank you so much again, and until next week, we hope you have a wonderful, stress-free week ahead. Take care, friends.